Well, good morning everyone and welcome back. Cumberland Outdoorsman here with you, and today I'm going to be touching on a subject that I haven't covered ever since I started my channel. As you know, this is an outdoor channel where I cover hunting and fishing and some hiking and maybe even some camping. I haven't done that yet, but that's coming up. But this subject here I haven't been able to participate in due to an injury that I had a few years ago. And what I'm talking about is bow hunting. Here I have an old vintage Mathews bow. This is an Ultramax, one of the speed bows of the time, and it will still shoot quite well. It's still just like it was when I first bought it. Still just as accurate and as powerful as ever. And I've taken several deer with this bow, folks. I mean, it's been a very good shooter and has served me quite well. The reason I haven't been able to participate in bow hunting is because I had an injury on this shoulder a few years ago, and I couldn't hardly get my arm, hold my arm up like that, you know, much less draw a bow, to be able to put pressure on it, because the pain was just excruciating. And for some time I actually considered having surgery done on that shoulder, but that would have meant several weeks out of work, and I just simply couldn't afford it at the time. So I started watching some self-help videos and started doing some exercises and massaging my shoulder there in that area all the way around, and putting heat pads on there. And you know, I think the massaging and the exercise has really helped it a lot. And I'm glad to say now I feel very, very little pain, if any at all. And I got my bow out here about a week ago and just tried drawing it back, and I'll be honest with you, at first it was a little bit of a struggle because my muscles haven't been built up like they were back when I used to shoot very actively. But I'm happy to say now that I can smoothly draw this bow without any pain whatsoever. As you can see here, that's at full draw at 65 pounds. I haven't let the bow down any at all from when I shot it years ago, and it's like I said, it still shoots just as well as it ever has, and I'm really starting to get back into it. So this year I'm going to be participating in some bow hunting and hopefully be able to take you along on a successful deer hunt with me. As I mentioned, I have taken several deer with this little bow here, and I still prefer it. You know, I have friends of mine that say, oh, go get you a new bow, you know, what you're shooting is outdated and everything, but I really don't see the need, to be honest with you. I shot some of the new bows, and yes, they shoot very smoothly and they are quite fast, but I just don't see a reason to change. I like shooting this bow. I shoot it well. I've taken deer with it in the past, and I don't see any reason why I can't successfully harvest whitetails with this setup the way I have it now. I'm still shooting aluminum arrows. The ones I'm shooting here are these Easton Super Lights. These are older arrows. These all aluminum. They're not carbon or composites or anything like that. And I build all my own arrows. I shoot a 4-inch fletching with a helical twist, right-hand twist. And I use these 4-blade 90-grain muzzies. The arrow weighs in right at 425 grains, and it leaves my bow right around 300 feet per second, which is plenty fast for any whitetail. I can go up in arrow weight and broadhead weight, and the bow will shoot around 270 to 280, somewhere in that vicinity. But with this setup here, I'm shooting, like I said, right around 300 feet per second. Maybe a little bit less, 290 or so, but depending on temperature and everything else, you know, there's a lot of factors that affect arrow speed, and I just don't see any reason to change. I've shot carbon arrows with this bow before, and yes, I do get quite a bit more speed out of them. I have shot 22-12s, but I really prefer these 22-13s because they add a little bit more weight and a little bit more punch, so that I can achieve maximum penetration. Now, it's not really that hard to penetrate a whitetail when you're shooting over 60 pounds of draw weight with this setup. But sometimes, you know, you'll hit a bone or something and you need that extra punch to push that broadhead on through. And the reason I like these Muzzies, I've always used these because they fly really well. They have that huge trocar tip on the front that will really smash through bone and everything else on its way towards the vitals, and I just absolutely love them. They're great broadheads, and they always perform very well, for me anyway. A lot of people are using expandables. I have used expandables in the past, but I've always gone back to these 4-blade Muzzies. Here on the ground I've got another bow from the same time period as the one I just showed you. This is the Mathews MQ1. Now this is the bow that started the parallel limb design. It's a very smooth drawing bow, very smooth shooting bow, and I've won several tournaments with this bow. I used to shoot tournaments years ago, haven't participated in that for 15 years, I guess. I don't remember the last time I went on a bow shooting tournament. And, you know, I would feel perfectly comfortable to still use this bow amongst shooters that are using new equipment, because I've watched them and I've stood by and actually observed them shooting their bows, and I don't see that much improvement. Yes, the bows do shoot smoother, but this is a very silky smooth shooting bow, and I just don't see any reason to go out and spend $1,000 on a setup when I can shoot equally well with this bow here. But it's all in your preference, you know. I happen to prefer Mathews bows. I was impressed with them from the first time I actually shot one. I have shot PSE in the past, Hoyt, and Martin bows. They're all fantastic bows. You know, it's all your preference. There's so much available to us hunters and shooters now that, you know, you really can't go wrong anymore. Bows are being made at a very high level of quality now, and the rest is just up to you to get out and practice and become proficient with your equipment. This morning I came out here in the woods, and here there's several white oaks here. There's a white oak stand behind me, and I found the first white oak that have dropped, and that's what these are. Now, deer will key in on white oak acorns probably over anything else, including agricultural crops such as corn and soybeans. They'll really key in on white oak acorns when they start dropping. That's at the first part of the season. And then later on, of course, the red oaks will start dropping, and they'll key in on red oaks then, you know. Okay, the release that I use is this Scott release. I use this when I'm practicing, back when I shot tournament, and also when I hunt. I use the same release. I try to keep my setup pretty much the same when I shoot tournament as I do when I'm hunting. You know, the same length arrow, the same spine arrow, everything pretty much the same. So that when the moment of truth arrives, you know, you don't have to worry about changing anything in your way of shooting. Everything pretty much comes natural. So I've had good luck with this release. It's a very fine release, pretty much effortless. It fits my hand perfectly, and like I say, you know, I know there's new equipment on the market, but this has served me well, and I'm going to continue using it. Okay, there's one important aspect to any outdoor pursuit that's not very often talked about. I have seen some articles on it, and occasionally you'll hear someone talk about it on a video or a hunting show or whatever, and that's having confidence in your equipment and your ability with that equipment. And that matters no matter what you're doing. You know, it doesn't matter if you're hunting with a rifle, whether you're hunting with a muzzleloader or with a bow. whether you're fishing, no matter what, if you want to go on a bass fishing trip and you're casting a bait cast reel and you can't proficiently cast that reel without backlashing it, your confidence level is going to be way down. You're not going to catch as many fish. You'll probably have a miserable time trying to fish with equipment that you're not familiar with. So one of the things that I would like to stress is get out and practice with the equipment that you intend to use, as I have. Become proficient with it where it's, everything that pertains to using that equipment comes as second nature. And that's the reason I'm so confident in this bow. I've practiced with it for so many years, and I've successfully harvested several deer with it. And to me, it's just such a fine little bow because I enjoy shooting it. I just absolutely love to get out and shoot this bow. And that instills a level of confidence that you really have to have. And like I said, I've harvested several deer with it. I've even done some small game hunting with it, where I've shot squirrels and rabbits using judo points out of this little bow here. Had an absolutely wonderful time doing that because it's quite a challenge, let me tell you, to be able to hit small game like that with a bow and arrow. And I've done that in the past, and it's enormously satisfying. Some of the deer that I've harvested with this bow bring back fond memories, and I have one here next to me. This is a deer that I harvested, I think it was 2002. Been many years now, and I had it mounted, so I thought I'd bring it out here and show it to you. This is a beautiful 8-point, very symmetrical, has 11.5-inch G2 tines, and the main beams here both measure almost 22 inches. They're very even, and they almost come together right here in the middle. Now, this had been the biggest whitetail that I had taken to that date. Now, I've killed bigger deer than this, but this is a pretty nice little trophy here, especially for bow hunting, And the memories come back every time I look at one of these mounted deer, because it replays in my mind all the events that led up to the successful hunt that I had. But this is a fine little whitetail. It's not a giant by any means, but it's a really pretty 8-point. Probably one of the prettiest I've ever seen. I mean, he's got a lot of character here at the bottom, and good brow tines. Just a nice symmetrical 8-point rack that most people would be proud to harvest. It's just a wonderful, wonderful addition to all of the other mounts that I've got. The morning that I hunted, when I harvested this deer, was early season. It was, I want to say it was mid-November, and I was hunting on a military reservation with 2 other friends of mine. And that's another reason it's so memorable, because I enjoy that time with my friends in the outdoors, as I'm sure many of you do as well. So, if you can get out and you can find friends that have similar interests and hobbies, it's just more enjoyable to participate in that with your friends. But anyway, I'll tell you the story real quick, what led up to this successful hunt. I went into the area and I did a little scouting there. I drove by there before and I saw several nice deer, and went on in there that morning and I found some sign that looked fairly promising. There were persimmon trees that were dropping persimmons already, and I found several rubs on trees that were, that big around cedar trees or whatever, and they were quite high. The rub was up high, and I'll be covering all that in an upcoming video when we're going to go out and scout for whitetails. But anyway, I found these rubs, and I found droppings, and I found 2 scrapes. So I knew that deer were frequenting the area. They were in that particular area, and I thought, well, I'll find me a tree here to get up in. I was using a climbing stand, an old man climbing tree stand, which I still have and still use it occasionally. But got up in this old cherry tree that morning, and the wind was going directly in my face. You know, it was going towards me. And that's one thing, like I said, you need to pay attention to. But I was in the stand for maybe an hour or so, and I noticed some movement down the hill to my left. And this deer was moving from my left towards my right, you know, going this direction. And I immediately grabbed my grunt call, and I blew the grunt call, and the deer stopped. And I was just sitting there watching him. The deer was looking straight ahead. I decided not to blow that grunt call while he was standing still. I wanted to wait until he started moving again. So when he took another step, I hit that grunt call, and he wheeled around and looked directly at me. It looked like he was staring a hole right through me. So right after doing that, he started heading my way. I mean, he was coming at a beeline right towards me. I started to draw on the deer, but he was still facing towards me, and then he turned and went all the way around me. And he was looking the whole time, looking for what he thought was another deer. But he went around me. I never did get a shot at that deer, and he went down to my right side and behind me and left. Well, I sat there and recollected my thoughts and everything, and a little bit of time go by. Then I got my rattle bag out and started doing some rattling and some grunting at the same time, thinking that maybe that deer would return, you know, just because deer are naturally curious. They're going to want to investigate anything that they hear like that, especially in their home turf. So anyway, a little while later, I looked up and I saw some more movement directly ahead of me, you know, right, I mean, straight out in front of me here. And I could see the bottom part of a deer. I saw the front legs and the chest. And he moved into a little opening, and then he dropped his head down and was smelling the ground, and I saw the rack then. And I thought, wow, that's an even nicer deer. So he stood there for a while and looked around, and then I blew the grunt call one time, and I saw his ears lay back, and he was trotting right in my direction. He kind of came a little bit to my right, and then he turned in front of me, and as he turned, I came to full draw. And when he got out there about 18 yards, I stopped him with one of these bleats. I just gave him that, and he just froze right there. I mean, he stopped right in his tracks and looked up at me. I put the pin on him and shot, and arrow went right through both lungs and went completely through. I still have a section of that arrow that I found, and the deer wheeled around and took off, and I heard him crashing through the brush and everything. And then all of a sudden, everything was quiet. You know, there was silence. So I had to sit there for a while. You know, they say to give that deer 30 minutes to an hour or so to let him lay down and die. Well, let me tell you, you got to give yourself some time after that experience, because you know, you might fall out of the tree because you're so shaken up by the experience that you just had. So give yourself some time. Let your nerves calm down. Reassess the situation that just happened, all the events that led up to it, and everything afterwards. Try to determine where that deer went, and listen. Use your ears after the shot. You know, really listen. And a lot of times you can hear where that deer went down, and you can almost go straight to him. So, you know, I know it's exciting, and I know your nerves are kind of shot at the moment, because it is. It's an exciting sport. It's a very thrilling thing to experience, to go out deer hunting and successfully harvest a deer with a bow. But anyway, I got on my walkie-talkie and got in touch with a friend of mine. I said, man, I just shot a nice deer, and I'm getting ready to get down and go look for him. And he said, well, just hold on, just wait. I'll be there in a minute. Anyway, I don't know how he found me, but I was standing over where I had shot the deer when he was standing there, and I looked on the ground looking for blood or any other evidence of a good hit, And you know, you start wondering then, did I make a good hit or didn't I? But I was fairly certain I killed this deer because I thought I heard him crash. Well, my friend came up and he said, yeah, look right there. That's where he kicked up the dirt and took off. I said, yeah, that's exactly where he was standing. So we went down and we found the first blood, and then right after that it was just like somebody had taken a paint can and just sprayed blood everywhere, you know, on the trees, on the foliage, on the ground. And then I found that the end of my arrow shaft, about that long, with the fletching still on it, soaked in blood. And it wasn't long after that I said, I think I heard him crash right over there. So we walked, I mean, anybody could have followed that blood trail right up to this deer and made a successful harvest. And that's a day and a morning that will stand out in my memory for the rest of my life. You know, that was just one of those real fond memories of a good, successful deer hunt. I'll never forget it. So anyway, I just wanted to share that story with you because I know everybody loves hunting stories, and I enjoy hearing your stories when you comment. But that being said, let me get out here in the woods and do a little shooting. I've got a 3D target of a deer that I'm going to set up, and I'm not going to pace it off. I'm just going to step back to where I think I would encounter a deer and just do some shooting and see if my skills are still up to par so that I'll be ready for deer season. So let's go do some shooting. Okay, with those two shots, I was aiming for the heart. And as you can see here, both those arrows went right there in the heart. A lot of times when you're shooting at deer, they'll tend to want to drop when they hear the bow go off. So if you aim at the heart and they react, it'll hit somewhere up here in the lungs a lot of times, you know, when they drop. And if they don't react, you'll still get a heart shot. So either one would be a deadly shot, you know, on a whitetail. Okay folks, both of those shots right there are absolutely perfect kill shots. They're a little bit spread apart, but that's okay, because you know, that's a good vital area of any whitetail. And that's shot at a distance of about 25 yards, which here in the woods of Tennessee is pretty much average. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and take a break now, because I've shot quite a few in a row, and you don't want to wear yourself out. This kind of practice here, though, is what gets you ready for the season. Still grouping right around the lower left-hand corner of that target. I'm going to try and hold a little bit higher, see if I can get some right here in the bullseye. Well, that's better. I held just about right here, actually. It's sighted in for 20 yards, so if I held right here, it would hit dead center. But I'm shooting at 25 yards, so just a few yards makes a little bit of a difference in the drop. But anyway, that's plenty good for accuracy on a whitetail. This is a much smaller scale animal here on this picture than what you're encountering. But, you know, there's a few shots that went a little bit astray, like this one or that one, and that was due to my habit of target panic, and that's the reason I'm out here practicing, to try to get over that. Now, as I mentioned, confidence in your equipment is a very important factor when you go out and you go in pursuit of whitetails, or if you're elk hunting, or if you're turkey hunting, whatever. You have to have that level of confidence in your equipment so that you can make a clean, ethical kill when the moment of truth arrives. There's a few things that you're going to have to take along with you that will really boost your odds of success and further build on that confidence. And what I've got here is a day pack that I carry with me. You know, this also pertains to hunting with a rifle or a muzzle loader. You know, there's some things that you're just going to need when you're afield. One of the things is this wool hat. You know, when temperatures start getting cold, when I'm bow hunting, I can wear this, or if I'm gun hunting, the requirements here, as they are in many states, is you have to wear blaze orange, this fluorescent orange. I can turn the hat inside out and have a blaze orange hat on. When the temperature cools off enough to where it starts getting around your ears and make your ears cold. So get you a good wool hat like this. You know. In addition to that, when temperatures start cooling off, you'll need some insulated gloves like the ones I have here. You know, I use these very regularly, especially around mid-November when temperatures really start to drop. You're going to need a way to keep warm. And keeping warm is one of the key factors in keeping still, because game animals have this uncanny ability to be able to spot movement at a distance, and I mean even slight movement, they'll pick it up. So I use some of these hot hands to keep my fingers and hands warm, and I've actually sometimes slip these into my boots to keep my toes warm, you know, keep my feet warm, because staying comfortable while you're out deer hunting is just going to increase your odds of success even more, because you know you're going to stay longer, you're going to be able to sit still longer, and you're just going to enjoy the whole experience a lot more if you're comfortable and warm. That being said, there are days when you'll have a cold morning, you know, cold mornings, and then it starts warming up later on, so you want to be able to shed some of that clothing. Here I've got some light gloves that I wear, especially during bow season. You know, you wear these because it's just too warm to wear that insulated stuff, and you'll be just as uncomfortable being too hot as you will being too cold. So, you know, make sure you prepare before you go for any temperature changes that you might encounter. Another thing that you might want to take along with you is some of this cordage. I always keep some of this on hand. Multiple uses for this stuff here. You know, there's just no end to how useful extra cordage can be. So take some of that with you. I also, of course, use a drag rope for dragging my deer, and also use a pull-up rope for pulling my equipment up into the tree stand. You never want to climb with a gun or a bow on your back. Get in the tree stand first, get secured, and then pull your equipment up with a pull-up rope. Something else you're probably going to need, especially if you're bow hunting, is one of these saws. This is a Gerber saw. It's a folding saw. This one here came with two different blades. Here's a coarse blade. Pull it out of the sheath here. And these are really effective for removing any unwanted branches or anything in the way. This is called a bone blade. It's a finer tooth blade for cutting through bones when you're field dressing deer, you know, the rib cage or between the inside of the hindquarters. You can split that bone there so that you can get all of the intestines out of that deer and get it cooled off. So, you know, one of these has a lot of good uses, you know, to get limbs out of your way, and also to be able to build a ground blind if you want to. You know, you can cut brush down and put it around you and build you a little ground blind using one of these. In addition to that, I also like to carry along a pair of clippers. You know, this makes quick use of small branches and twigs that are in your way. You know, you can be able to eliminate those or use them to cover yourself. Sometimes I take those branches that I clip off and put them around me in my tree stand to help conceal me. It really helps a lot because it hides movement, and it also helps you blend in so well to the woods. So get you a good pair. These are made by Corona. These are made in USA. If you do get some of this equipment, spend a few extra dollars and get the good quality stuff. It'll pay off in the long run. Also, you need a good knife. Here I've got a good skinning knife that I keep in a sheath. This is a leather sheath, and I keep it good and sharp. This is one of those blades that stays sharp for a long time because it's made by Boker, good quality. And you can also use it for field dressing your deer. You know, you're going to need to be able to open that deer up and use a good knife. Now, there are some knives out there that have gut hooks on them where you can pull the gut open without worrying about puncturing the gut or the stomach. But if you practice with this, you'll become very proficient at it. But make sure you keep it in a good quality sheath like this. You don't want it loose inside of your day pack. Also, what I carry with me is a good sharpening stick here. This is made by Kershaw. This is a diamond stick. This will put a quick edge on any knife, you know, whether you're carrying a pocket knife or a hunting knife or a skinning knife. It's also good for sharpening fixed blade broadheads, you know. It has a nice smooth diamond texture here, and it puts a really good razor edge on any blade that you might be carrying. And it stores away real compact, like a small flashlight. Carry this with me a lot. You know, this is a valuable tool here. What else? Let's see. You'll need a few survival things in case you get stuck out in the woods. Here I've got a fire starting kit. This is a magnesium stick. And also this fire stick here, it's flint. As you can see, it throws out pretty good sparks. You want to pile up a small pile of magnesium on some tinder that you have to be able to start a quick fire in case you get stuck out in the woods somewhere and you're forced to stay overnight. You know, you really, especially on a cold night and you're somewhere where you've gotten lost or, you know, got turned around and you don't have enough daylight to be able to find your way out, it's so much nicer if you have a fire going there next to you than to sit out there in the cold, dark woods. You know, a fire will just make things much more bearable. So be able to start a fire in case you get stuck out in the woods somewhere, especially if you're hunting very remote areas. You know, I can't stress it enough. Some of the survival techniques and tactics come into play, and being able to start a fire is a big, major part of it. Okay, there's a few other things that I'd like to cover that I carry with me in my day pack. And some of these are these calls, like this grunt call. This is a hardwood grunter by Primos. There's other brands out there. I like this one here because it's adjustable. You can adjust this O-ring up and down to change the tone of the call. If you want a more coarse grunt, like a mature buck. Grunt call comes in real handy. And along with that, especially during the pre-rut, I like to use this one of these cans when bucks are chasing does, because this very closely resembles a doe bleat. You know, these come in real handy. I've had deer turn around and come right towards me after using this, especially in combination with a grunt call. You know, speaking of grunt calls, I've actually had times in the past where it really changed the hunting situation. And if you're out bow hunting, or maybe hunting, you know, with something that has a limited range, like a muzzleloader or whatever, but especially with a bow or a crossbow, and you see a nice mature buck, and he's either walking away from you or he's going to bypass your stand where you can't get a shot, the only thing in your power you have to change that situation is a call. I've had deer come by me and go heading away from me, and I give them this right here, and they'll stop and turn around and come right back. I'm telling you, these things work. What else do you have to lose? You know, you have to do something. You're not going to scare that deer unless he comes in downwind and smells you. But if he hears that grunt, there's a good chance he's going to turn around and come back towards your location where you can possibly get a shot at him. I've killed a lot of deer using grunt calls in that kind of situation. So get yourself a good grunt call, learn how to use it, become proficient with it, and know when to use it. It'll change your hunting drastically at times. Also, a rattle bag, or if you want to use rattling antlers, that's perfectly fine. I use this right here because it's more compact. I can carry it in my day pack. I can pull it out and use it at a moment's notice. You know, a lot of times this will draw in deer from long distances, and if you combine a rattle with a grunt, a lot of times you'll bring in really good mature deer like the one I have here. Also, what you're going to need from time to time are some of these scents. You know, you can buy different scents, especially during the pre-rut and the rut. Like this Select Estrus, I always try to get a fresh supply every year. And I put out mock scrapes because a lot of times you'll have deer come in at a distance and then they'll catch wind of that mock scrape that you put out and they'll come right back. I remember one morning in particular, I was muzzleloader hunting, and the sun was just coming up. I had a deer go by, and I couldn't see him, but then he turned around and came back, and as daylight became more apparent and I could see things better, I looked, and he was right there and had his nose right in my mock scrape. And I decided not to take that deer because I wanted a better deer. He was a pretty good sized deer, but I let him go. And then between that time and when I left, I had 5 more bucks come right in and put their nose right into that mock scrape. They were all little bucks, but it shows you the effectiveness of using scents. You know, do they work? Absolutely. Do they work all the time? No. But they work enough of the time where it's a worthwhile thing. It has been for me anyway, and I've had great success using certain types of scents at the right time of year. One thing that I can't stress enough, especially if you're hunting whitetail or elk, is the ability to read the wind, and also to know where you are in relation to that game animal and how the wind is playing into the effect of that deer or that elk or whatever it is of detecting you. And one of the most useful tools that you can have is a windicator like this. It lets you know exactly what direction the wind is going, and you can watch that puff of powder as it's traveling. Sometimes it'll change and go around a tree and go in the other direction. So get some of this stuff here. This is really good. If you start paying attention to the wind and where the deer are in relation to you with the wind, your chances of success are going to go way up. I can't stress it enough. The scenting ability of a deer is just phenomenal, as well as elk or anything else. That's their #1 means of defense. So you have to play by their rules when it comes to their nose, you know, because if you don't pay attention to how well they can smell you, most of the time they're going to end up coming out ahead, and you're not going to get a shot at that deer or that elk. So get you a windicator, you know, get something like this. This is made by HS. There are other manufacturers out there that make this kind of product, but it really has helped me a lot, and it will you too if you learn how to use it. Scent is one of those things that we must pay attention to. Another thing that I like to keep in my day pack is one of these screw-in hooks. You know, you can screw it into a tree right next to you and hang your bow or hang your day pack or whatever. So I actually carry several of these, you know, and some of them, if I don't like to drill a hole in a tree, I'll put a strap around it and carry another type of hook. Let's see, I've got it here where I can just clip it on. It's just a clip type hook where I can hang my equipment from the tree. That way my hands are free, you know. I do all of this after I get secured to the tree using my body harness, you know, my fall arrest system. Make sure you're safe in that tree. Another thing that I can't stress enough is a lot of times, you know, we'll hunt early in the morning before the sun comes up, or we'll stay late until after the sun goes down. You need to be able to find your way out of the woods, or to be able to follow a blood trail. Get you a good compact flashlight, you know, something that's bright enough that will actually make the difference between finding your way out and getting lost, you know. Carry extra batteries. It probably wouldn't hurt to carry 2 flashlights. And a lot of times what I like to wear is a lamp that I can put on my hat, you know, a cap light, so to speak, that has different intensities, because sometimes you'll need to have both your hands free, like if you're dragging a deer out or whatever, and you want to be able to see wherever you look. So a light that attaches to your cap or to your head, a headlight, is very handy, you know. Extremely important tool to have. I carry one with me all the time. I just don't have it here with me right now. But anyway, that pretty much covers a lot of the basics. Here's another thing that I like to carry with me, some extra toilet paper, but also some of these field wipes so that you can wash your hands in case you harvest a deer and your hands get all bloody and everything. You want to be able to clean yourself in the field, you know. So I carry some of these field wipes with me to get any excess blood off of me. I also carry a roll of tape You know, a lot of these little things that you don't think about until you absolutely need them. If you're out in the woods and there's something that you run into that you need, make note of it and remember that, so that next time you go, you have it with you. Because a lot of this stuff is just not absolutely necessary, but it comes in mighty handy and it'll make your hunt a lot more enjoyable and probably more successful as well. So I've pretty much covered everything we'd need for bow hunting. I'm going to be going into tree stands in another video and a few other things. We're going to be talking about scouting for deer and what to look for, you know, the sign that you want to look for. All this is coming up because this is Labor Day weekend and the season's going to be rolling around here very quickly. As you can hear, the cicadas in the trees are still singing. Temperatures are still in the 80s or so. In the morning it's getting down pretty low. Weather's starting to cool off, so hunting season's right around the corner. And now's the time to get ready, folks. That's the reason I'm posting this video. But I'm going to get out here and practice shooting a little bit more. Here I've got one of the arrows that I hunt with, and I've got a practice broadhead here that I'll be sighting my bow in with. And I always check each arrow individually, because sometimes you'll have an arrow that doesn't fly the same as all the rest of them. You need to eliminate that one and stick with arrows that are always consistently shooting in the same spot. You know, you want to be able to have that confidence that your arrow is going to hit where you aim. Once again, that confidence comes up. And I use the same weight broadhead and the same style broadhead that I'd be using when I'm deer hunting. So remember that. These are all little tips that a lot of you already know out there. They're kind of a reminder, and it takes us back to the beginnings of bow hunting, you know, when we first got into the sport. And it's just a lot of fun to get ready, because the excitement is building, you know. Things are getting ready to crank up. And I've seen several deer here in the woods where I live and other places where I hunt, so it looks like it's going to be a pretty good deer season. And like I said, you know, I'm starting to see acorns dropping. And if you don't know the difference between your trees, I suggest you get a field guide for the trees in your area and learn what a white oak is and what a red oak is, and all the other plants that deer are attracted to. Persimmon trees come to mind, honey locust, a lot of this soft mass that falls later in the year. You know, deer are going to be drawn to that, and you need to be able to identify those things so that you can set up in an area where your chances of success will go up. You know, you always want to try to tip the odds in your favor, and learning all this stuff is just going to help you out in the long run. So with all that being said, let me say I appreciate you watching. I know this was a little bit of a long video and sitting here rambling on about things that a lot of you already know about, but like I said, it's just kind of a reminder. You know, get you a checklist out and check things off as you go, so that you'll be ready when the season arrives. I know I'm ready already. I can't wait till it comes around, and I just absolutely love deer hunting. So remember, if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, whatever it may be, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And also remember, hit the like button and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this will be coming your way. So until next time, folks, y'all get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. Stay safe and take care of one another. I'll see you next time.